All right. We are going to look at the situation where you have multiple service notes for a single date and the options for what you do given that situation. So as you can see, eTMACT alerts you when it starts detecting more than one contact note for a given date, as we have here. Each of these are going to have different situations that call for different ways in which we manage it. So for March 27th, we have two contacts. It is Dr. Long and Letitia Moore, the team leader, seeing the individual in the community. And in this case, we can tell from the service note that they went out together. So they're pretty close in their duration. So from the perspective of client 12, they did not get 60, 65 minutes worth of services. They got about 30 minutes. And they didn't necessarily get two contacts from the team that day. They had one contact from two team members. So in this situation, we need to make an update to reflect that we want to give the team credit for two staff. There was something meaningful about the two of them going out, but we can't give credit for 65 minutes when it was a 30-minute contact. And also not give credit for frequency. So we'll go to Carol's note, which is the shorter one. And in terms of 30 minutes versus 35. And what we'll do is we're going to select exclude for frequency. So what this does is in the system of eTMACT, it knows not to count this towards the item that's looking at frequency of contact, but it's going to count everything else. But we have to adjust one thing. We can't let it give credit for these 30 minutes because those were already credited for the other note that will be in the system. And quite honestly, I don't know what it does if you put 0. I think you might be able to do 0. I normally do 1. So to be safe, I'll do 1 minute, but I think 0 would be okay too, and hit save. So now this will account for this being 1 visit, credit for that time, excluding one of the notes for frequency. So you're not double crediting for 2 separate frequency visits that day. Now we have on April 19th, 2 contacts. In this case, it was 1 phone and 1 face-to-face, and we don't care about that. And actually, eventually we will fix this where eTMACT is only going to be alerting us for the face-to-face contacts and not anything else. So for now, that's how it is. So let's look at the next one. 3 contacts on March 30th. Here we have 3 staff, Devontae, Letitia, and Susan, who met with a client at the office. 2 have 60 minutes, 1 has 90 minutes. So for this, when we look at the service notes, we can tell that they hosted a person-centered planning meeting. So that's great that they all participated in this planning meeting with client 12. But we can't give credit for the total of this time because from client 12's perspective, the longest amount of time they got from the ACT team that day was 90 minutes worth of service. Because probably what happened for the service note is Devontae participated for 60 minutes with these 2 individuals, but then additionally had 30 minutes that maybe assisted with going home to the store, meeting some other need. So the ultimate amount of time we want to credit is 90 minutes for this contact as it reflects what client ID 12 experienced. Client ID 12 experienced seeing 3 staff members, and we want to give the team credit for that. We also want to manage the frequency of contact because right now the system thinks that client ID had 3 visits that day, but really it's 1. So we're going to keep Devontae's note as the primary one, and we're going to make adjustments to Letitia and Susan's note. So you hit edit, you're going to exclude for frequency, And we need to get rid of the 60 minutes. Go either 1 minute or 0. I haven't tried 0, so I'm afraid to do it. So I'm just going to do 1. And you can be specific and adjust Devontae's note down a few minutes, but at that point, it's kind of a wash and not necessary. I'm going to edit Susan. I'm going to exclude for frequency. I'm also going to adjust to 1 and hit save. So now Devontae's note on March 30th will fully count for a 90-minute visit on that day with Devontae. The other 2 notes are giving credit for the fact that Letitia and Susan also met. And we retain the information because we want to capture all of their participation in that treatment planning meeting too. Now let's look at April 4th. We have 2 contacts. Both are face-to-face and in the office. And it's with Eva and Susan. And when we look at the service notes, what we can tell is that the client attended a wellness management recovery group with Eva, and then afterwards went and saw Susan, the nurse, who then administered an injection. From the perspective of the client's experience, that was 1 visit where there was essentially going from Eva and then to Susan, versus frequency events where, say, the team is intentionally going out to see somebody twice a day because that's the level of care they need. That should count as 2 separate visits. This was a sequential event. So what we do is we just need to choose one of them to say exclude for frequency, and it doesn't matter which one because all the other data will count. Now, let's just say that Letitia is a very thorough documenter of all the contacts that she has with folks. And she, while client 12 was in the office on April 4th, she basically had a casual run-in. And it wasn't very long. And from what you can tell, there really wasn't much other than a brief check-in. There wasn't much there in terms of the reason for that visit. And if we leave this note in as is, we're going to be giving, so just to write it out, if we leave a note in, it's giving credit for Letitia scene. So team approach, giving credit. Right now it's giving credit for the frequency and duration. This was not a meaningful contact. It was happenstance. It's pretty clear that's what happened. You would then say exclude absolutely. At that point, the system is kicking all of this note out and it's not deleting the note. You actually, there's not easy ways to delete notes. You can update and edit them. So we'll just say save, and that kicks the note out altogether. So that's different ways you manage chart review where you have multiple service contacts on a single date.